So this is part 2 of the notes. So if you have not watched part 1 of the notes yet, please do so. Now, we said with facts, facts state reality. It is something that is observable, measurable, or verifiable. Now, while facts state reality, opinions interpret reality. And as we saw in the beginning, to interpret means to give meaning to. So, So, opinions interpret or give meaning to reality, or it's how we make meaning of our reality. And so whenever you see a word, especially a new word, and right after it is, a statement or another word inside of or parentheses or inside of 2 commas, that oftentimes will be a definition for that word. So, one sec. So in this way, interpret means to give meaning to our reality. So on our notes page, opinions are something that you blank, blank, or blank. Hop on over to the notes. Opinions are something that you think, feel, or believe. Think, feel, or believe. I'm going to keep going. Just pause it if you need time to fill in these blanks. Since we have pausing technology, there's not really much of a need for me to give the wait time, but make sure that you give it to yourself, okay? So think, feel, or believe. Opinions are the value that we give to something or someone, okay? And so value is what is called subjective. Opinions are subjective. So whereas objective is something that stays the same and all people can observe. Subjective changes based on the subject or the person. So subjective means that we can both see something and value it differently, give it different importance. We might think differently about it. We might feel differently about it. So our meaning changes. So think, feel, or believe, value you give. And opinions change throughout time and cultures. And so I know being younger, that was one of the harder things to understand because, everybody believes something or everybody knows this is true, but really what everybody knows this means was everybody that I knew, everybody that I spoke to in my small town, in my small county, inside of my state, inside of my country, inside of the world. Okay, so that is far from everybody. And so normally when we talk like that, we just mean everybody we've talked to. And as humans, we're very likely to surround ourselves with people who share a lot of the same thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and values. So we tend to be surrounded by people who have very similar opinions on things. And so it's important to not mistake that for facts and stuff. So you can believe something is true, but that doesn't make it a fact, which is why it's important to stick away to fact does not mean truth. Fact means observable, measurable, or verifiable. So they are subjective, they change based on the person. So let's look at this great comic here by the Awkward Yeti, and he does a lot of different comics featuring the brain and the heart. So we look on here, and the brain says, get up, we have 1,000,000 things to do. And the heart says, why would we do 1,000,000 things when we can do 0 things? Okay, so we have the exact same concept, which is a hyperbole or exaggeration, because I doubt they literally have 1,000,000 things to do, but there's 1,000,000 things to do. There's a set of responsibilities. Now, the brain values those responsibilities highly as something very important, whereas the heart values those responsibilities as less important and instead values doing 0 things and relaxing and having fun as important. So, observation, the brain and the heart have 2 different ideas or opinions about what's important, which means us. Sometimes we can have 2 different opinions about what's important. And so that is subjective. Those things are subjective because we can value them differently. Okay? So go into where it says opinions are subjective. which means they are based on the person or the subject. And then go ahead and fill that in. Based on the person. They are different based on the person. Okay? Going through a few examples of opinion words. And so the ones that we've already covered is adjectives, which is descriptive word. So again, we have in parentheses after our main word is the definition of it. So adjectives mean descriptive words, such as smart, dumb, ugly, pretty, silly, serious. Those are all subjective. Those are all opinions. They differ based on culture and time period. Okay, so after adjectives, type in descriptive words there in your notes. Next, we have superlatives, and superlatives deal with the rank and value that we give something. And so in the yearbook, you might actually see superlative awards that have like best sense of humor, best eyes, all that kind of stuff. So superlatives is that ranking system of good, better, best, bad, worse, worst. Okay, let's go ahead and type in those examples. If you see those, it's likely that you are reading an opinion, because good, bad, you can't prove objectively. Okay, and along with that, never and always are good clues that you are reading opinions and not facts, because never and always aren't really as verifiable. Okay, and lastly, good clues that you are reading opinions are that the statements feature average people, not experts. So mom thinks, dad believes, Billy told me, oh yeah, well my grandma said this. They might be right. They might be sharing something true, but does not make it fact. Fact has to do with experts in their fields who can verify or measure or research that information. All right? So those are all clues into opinions. Pause it if you need to still fill out those blanks. Otherwise, we're going to keep going. And let's see, I think this one's the last. Okay, yeah. So we're almost there. So here I just wanted to show you a couple examples about how opinions are subjective and change throughout time and history and cultures. Okay, so we could say everybody knows this person is beautiful, but again, we are talking everybody in our tiny community, inside of our city, inside of our county, inside of our state, inside of our country, inside of the world, okay? So it is actually everybody is a very small group of people, and it's just the people that we know. So different cultures, different time periods hold a different value system to beauty. So even if everybody we know agrees on something that is beautiful or cool today, it's still an opinion. So for example, right up here, we see this nice photo of these lovely ladies in bell bottoms. Now, my mom's generation, so when my mom was a teenager, this was the idea of cool and beautiful, that they thought would last forever. Now, I, as a 12-year-old, saw those pictures and I laughed at her for looking so ridiculous, because I thought the second set of pictures was what was actually cool and beautiful, and that would be cool and beautiful forever. I was clearly very, very, very wrong. And yes, there are multiple pictures of me with hair like that. Not that bad, but because I was like toward the tail end of that generation, but still, everybody I knew that this was beautiful and attractive, but now, like, it's really kind of funny. So we look below that, and we have what I thought was an interesting timeline of men's fashion, which doesn't change quite as much as women's, but it still does change. Like, oh, sorry, none of you guys are walking around in those tailcoats, right? Or those high-waisted pleated pants. Or here's some nice early 90s stuff right there. And so our views, our opinions, our values change. And just as an example of culture, I don't know if you ever saw the story with this woman here with her photograph, but what she did was she just took the most basic photograph of herself with no makeup, no accessories, no nothing, and she put it on a Reddit post for Photoshop. And she asked people from, if anybody from different countries would be willing to Photoshop it for free to show their ideals of beautiful. And so that's what we have here. And at first they can seem pretty similar until you get really up close. And again, like Argentina, that's one person in Argentina who thought that was beautiful, but it's interesting to see the level of diversity that just comes from being born in different countries and how they value beauty. If you notice, some of them like greatly lightened her skin, like some of them are almost blinding. Some of them like darkened her skin. Some of them added a lot of makeup, no makeup, changed hair color, different examples of modesties in certain cultures, to either have the head wraps or even just like a very conservative suit, because that's what's beautiful. We even have like different tattoo, like body markings or tattoos. And so just with this one lady, throughout cultures, and like I think there's at least 100 more out there. Check it out if you're interested. So within different cultures, they all have a different value system for these adjectives. And so, which is what puts it into the opinion and subjective category instead of factual and objective. So just some interesting little tidbits there for you. Or interesting to me at least. Now, so your job on this page is these thought questions. Number 1, just think real quick, what fashion trends from today do you think might be embarrassing in 20 years? Because I tell you what, every generation of teenagers, maybe not every single person in every generation, but every generation thinks that this is what is attractive, this is what's cool, this is what's great, and inevitably within 10 or 20 years, that idea has changed based on the next set of teenagers that come up. So list something that you think might be embarrassing in 20 years that right now you think is very attractive or cool. And then next on this page, 2 and 3, make one observation about each timeline. So an observation is just to tell me one thing that you noticed. Anything that you think or feel about it. So one on the men's fashion timeline, and one on, I guess it's not really a timeline, but more of a collage, and one about this collage from this photograph of this woman. Okay, so that's what you need to put on that page. And then the last page here, you guys did see it before, but just to re-put it into, now that we've learned a little bit more about facts and opinion. So here is an example opinion, which is LeBron James is the best basketball player ever. So best is a superlative. The word best is vague. It is an opinion. The word best on its own isn't provable. Now, different people could define specifically what they think best is, and then they could prove or disprove that, but that's what I'm going to show you in the second sentence. So, just the explanation here, people have very different views about what makes a player the best. So some people believe Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the best ever because the NBA had to create new rules just to keep him from dominating the game, and it still didn't work. And so we got a nice picture of both of them on here with their Lakers outfits. Now, if you want to turn that into a fact that's more objective, we have LeBron James is the youngest player in NBA history to reach 30,000 career points. Okay? Youngest. That is measurable. NBA history. NBA, remember, historical events and historical documents makes it verifiable. So youngest is measurable. NBA history is verifiable. You can get official documents of NBA history. And 30,000 career points is measurable and verifiable. So that turns it into something that is more objective. It turns it into a fact. Now, if you want to make that your definition for best, that's fine. But everybody's definition for best is a little bit different, which is why saying he's the best is an opinion, but saying he's the youngest player in NBA history to reach 30,000 career points is a fact, because it is observable, measurable, or verifiable. All right? So that finishes these notes. Go ahead and get them finished up and turned in. I appreciate you. Thanks for working, and I'll see you later. Bye.